My name is Allie and I am Appalachian Adventurista. And I am sitting here in my home. I just clocked off of work. I work from home, so I am in my sweatpants with socks tucked in, if anyone else is weird like me and does that. And I am thinking about the weekend and also realizing that a lot of people on YouTube announce their intentions to do hikes and through hikes and big adventures and things like that. And so I thought I would do that. So I am planning a through hike run, ultra run, I don't know how to classify it, of the Foothills Trail, which is 77 miles in one day. I'm estimating that it'll take me about 30 hours to complete, so it's hard to call that a day. I'm making this video today on Thursday, and my intention was to do that this weekend. So I would be starting tomorrow and finishing on Saturday. But there's a hurricane coming through, as some people might be paying attention to. And so it has gotten postponed, which I'm pretty disappointed about and pretty frustrated, but it's a good reminder of how, you know, nature's gonna do what nature's gonna do. And we as people who enjoy the outdoors have to accommodate that. So anyway, so that is what I am doing. There is my big announcement. I am doing a 77 miler ultra, we'll call it. It's hard for me to figure out how to classify this challenge because I don't consider myself an ultra runner. I consider myself a fast hiker and a small to medium distance runner and trail runner. So it's gonna be some combination of those two. I'm not doing this challenge for speed or anything. It is just to do it. So I have a team. It is gonna be myself and my uncle, who's 30 years older than me. We are gonna be the two completing this. My uncle Kenny actually completed a 50-mile section of the Foothills last year with me, so I feel pretty confident he'll at least make it for 50. We know he can go that far. And I guess we could say the same about me. But that is my team of like who's coming with me for the whole time. And then I have a team of support, which includes my parents, my boyfriend, and some of my other friends who are going to show up kind of intermittently, maybe do a section here or there with us, be there for emotional support, mental support, and also provide the aid stations that will let us complete this journey all in one go, because I cannot imagine. I'm sure someone out there does it unsupported, but I can't imagine. A lot of people ask me why I would want to do something like this, because I hear it and it sounds crazy, and I don't have a clean answer for this. My mileage with outdoor hikes and adventures has been slowly increasing. My friend and I started doing 30 milers, which is, we would do the Art Lobe Trail here in Western North Carolina, and we started doing those, and we did that, I think 3 times, and each time got faster. And we were just hiking that, and I realized, hey, you know, if I'm jogging on the downhills or slipping into, you know, a running speed for the flats in the areas that it's easy to do so, that would take off so much time from what we're already doing. And that is how I came up with the idea of a 50 miler. And I completed that successfully last year, which I'm pretty excited about. And that was a 50-mile section of the Foothills Trail, which is what I'm doing 77 miles of. And so that just kind of easily cascaded. I got to the end of the 50 and I had spent myself for that day, which I don't know how much of that was just the mental idea of this is the end, but I know that I also have more in the tank. And so the 77 miler is kind of a test of that. You know, where is my limit? Where is the end point? How much can I do? What can my body do? What can my mind do? Because a lot of it is mind over matter sort of a situation. So that's the best answer I have. It's a challenge that I want to complete, and that is sufficient. Another question I get asked a lot is, oh, which race are you doing? Because there's a lot of, ultra races around here. And this is not a race. This is something that I've designed. And I've done that for a couple of reasons. In part, it's because I know how to do this. I have enough time and experience in the backcountry with planning trips and doing backpacking and coordinating these sort of like back road locations that I know I can plan this for myself. And I don't need some sort of a race team or an organization to plan out, where water aid stations are and where to start and where to finish. Also, those races get really expensive, and I am broke. And so I don't want to pay to do something that I know how to do myself. Also, I have found from my past, I used to be in cross country and I ran with one of the local running groups in Asheville when I was there for college. And the competitive mindset really works for people. Some people really thrive in it. And I do well in it in terms of performance and times and speed, but I do not do well in a competitive space with my mindset. And so by not signing up for a race, I'm letting myself create the parameters and create the situation and exactly the circumstance for myself without potentially harming myself and causing injury, which could happen, or just otherwise kind of creating a dislike for the sport. That was something that happened to me after high school with running. As I finished high school and I was like, wow, running is like a chore now. And it was because just the mentality that came from competing in that mindset for so long, it felt like I needed to be hitting these marks and I needed to go this fast and I needed to be running this distance to be successful. And that's not okay with me. Thankfully, I know how to design this myself, I guess. So I also get asked a lot how to plan for this sort of thing because it's a lot. It's essentially, my estimate is that it's going to take me about 30 hours to complete, and that's a long time. The way that I plan these is I start by figuring out my breaks. I figure out, once I figured out the trail, I guess that's the first. I figure out the trail that I want to go do this on. And then I figure out by looking at where road intersections are, campgrounds, things like that, just where I want my breaks to be. And I decide that based off of the sections, how far do I want to run before I see someone again? And for me, that's about 10 miles would be the ideal, somewhere between 10 and 15 miles before I get to my next aid station. And so I figure that out first. I look at the whole trail, I figure out where my start is, where my end is, and then I note the places on the way where I want aid. And so once I figure that out, then I have to take into consideration what my average speed is. And I have figured out from the years of hiking that I hike at about an average of a 2 miles an hour pace. So every 30 minutes, I'm going about a mile. And I know that with the running sections, I'm going to be going faster than that. And so last year for my 50 miler, I estimated that I was going to go about 3 miles an hour. And when I finished, I went back into the math and I was dead on. I averaged that right. I went about 3 miles an hour last year. So from that, I have two options. I can either decide when I want to start or I can decide when I want to finish. And then from either of those, with the timing of the sections, which is determined from like knowing kind of what my average speed is going to be, I can figure out when I want to start or end. So if I know I want to start at 10 a.m., and I know that my first section, I'm going 12 miles, and I know that I go roughly 3 miles an hour, then I know that that's going to be about, from the start to that first break, 12 miles later, it's going to be about 4 hours, excuse me. And you can do that either direction. You can either do that from the point that you're starting or from the point that you want to end. Say you want to finish, at 5 o'clock, a couple hours before the sun goes down, so that you've got plenty of time. You can also track backwards to figure out what your start and end times are going to be. And then from there, all it is getting together your support system, and that is both your team and your gear. So I pretty much have the same team as I did for my 50 miler last year, with a couple of changes. And then my gear is roughly the same, just with more, essentially. What my gear looks like for a 77 miler, what I carry with me is my running vest. It is a Nathan Vapo Aires. I love it. This is what I have done some of my lighter, faster hikes in. This is what I did my 50 miler in. And I've used it for a couple other things, and I love this thing. It carries, although it's not in here right now, apparently. Yes, it is. No, it's not. It carries a 2-liter water bladder, and my hose is still connected, although the bladder's not in here at the moment. And it's got several pockets here. And so what I do with this is I carry it the whole time, and in it I have at least one heavy snack, kind of as an emergency case. I always have a bar, I always have an electrolyte, I have my basic med kit, obviously my phone, and then I've got an extra, I have a collapsible water bottle that actually fits in this pocket, and that is my dedicated electrolyte water bottle. So I've got 2 liters of water on my back, and then I also have a bottle that is constantly pumping me back with my electrolytes, and some of the electrolyte tablets I use, they have caffeine. And keep in mind that, you know, every roughly 10 to 15 miles, the way that I've planned it, there's an aid station, so I get to resupply my water at that point. I can resupply my snacks. I can check on things as needed. So this doesn't need to supply me for the whole day. It just has to supply me to the next aid station with a little bit of extra, because safety. So that's what I have with me. And then, like I referenced, there's always going to be a supply at my aid stations. So it just so happens that my dad is very familiar with the backcountry out here. He worked as a park ranger for his whole life, so he's really familiar with forest roads and things like that. And he drives around to each aid station, and he has a whole setup ready to go. And so what I give to him is a bucket that has everything I could possibly need. It's got things like KT tape, a more extensive med kit, a charger for my headlamp. Oh, and that's something that I have in my vest is a headlamp. And it's got a charging cable for it, so that is also in the truck. Gallons of water as backup, my extra electrolytes, tons of snacks, things like that. And then what my dad does is he also brings his Coleman grill and provides our meals for us. So he takes care of like the heavier bulk intakes of food for lunch and dinner and breakfast and, you know, whatever time period I've got going on. And so last year what that was is he met us, last year we had a 4 a.m. start time, and he met us for breakfast, and he cooked us up eggs with Spam, and we had instant coffee, and he had it ready to go for us when we got there on the tailgate, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It tasted amazing on the trail, especially after, you know, at that point I'd already done like 12 miles. And then he also last year cooked us lunch, which was chili, which he had pre-made, and he had the Coleman grill, so he just heated it up, and we had hot, ready to go chili and cornbread, and it was so delicious. I cannot explain how good it is to have like pseudo home cooked meal out on the trail that is super nutritious and packed with calories to keep you going, because you're exerting a lot in that sort of a situation. So a lot of thanks to my dad for being able to support me in that way. It wouldn't be possible without him. That's kind of what the gear looks like. I've got my pack with me, and then I've got like backup reserves in the truck. Looking forward, like I said, I was supposed to do this tomorrow, but we're not, because of the hurricane coming through, and I don't have an actual rain date, which some people might scoff at. I did, to be clear, I had a rain date. It was next weekend, and both myself and my uncle are good to go for it, but my support system, everyone else who's going to be there to support us, was not available next weekend. So, communication lapse on my part. So we were figuring out what our next rain date is. So I guess I can't really tell you guys what day I'm gonna be doing this on, but it's gonna be happening soon. and I will have a video coming out about my 77 miler when I get to do it, and I'm excited for that point. And I'm just gonna sit here and think about it all weekend long. I appreciate y'all watching my videos, and if you get the chance, please do like and subscribe, because that just encourages creators like me. Thank y'all, and have a great rainy weekend.